Hey, what's up? It's Jared. I wanted to talk about my daily log. This is something I've gotten a lot of questions about. I talked briefly about my daily log a few months ago when I first started using Notion. My daily log is kind of a journal in a sense, but it is a lot more than that. Over the past several years, I've tried using different journals, like these guided journals, like the Full Focus Planner. I've even went with blank journals and implemented the bullet journal system, and a lot of different things that I've tried to do to find a method of logging information and staying on top of things that worked best for me. Now, paper journals were a little bit tricky. I never had them with me when I needed them. The information was in the book, it wasn't where I was, and so it just became kind of hard to utilize them. I would go down the road of using them for maybe a month or two, and then I'd just stop using them because they weren't practical for me. I don't like carrying around a lot of stuff. I like having my phone and maybe my wallet on me, maybe a key or two, and that's about it. I don't like carrying a bunch of stuff around with me like I have in the past. And so carrying a book and having to have a pen and all this other stuff, and then also spend a bunch of time to take the information out of one book and move a highlight of it or whatever over to the next one. That whole process, I don't have the time for that. I have 4 children, I have several businesses, and I just don't have the time to get lost in some sort of a new system that takes a lot of time to update. But there's a lot of really neat things about some of those journals and those systems that I've implemented into what I'm calling my daily log. And my daily log I've been doing for a lot of years. I was using Evernote for it, and I've been using Evernote for my daily log for over 2 years now. And then I moved over to Notion a couple of months ago. Now, the problem with using Evernote is it was essentially just like a journal, like a regular notebook, but it was digital, of course. So it was nice that I was able to search through old entries and find something from a past entry. Maybe I had made some notes in there while I was in a client meeting, or my wife and I talked about something specifically, or there was a like momentous occasion with one of my kids that I had talked about in my daily log. I could search for it, and that was great. But in aspects that I wanted to track the trends of, for example, with the latest challenge that I had for myself, which was 30 days of getting to 20,000 steps with my fitness tracker, which is around 10 miles, I wanted to be able to track the progress there, and I didn't have a good way of tracking progress like that in Evernote. And I do in Notion just because of the way that Notion works. So there was no way for me to look at trends of data and things that I tended to be talking about or writing down or logging in my daily logs that was the same. There was no way to track that, aside from doing a search and hoping that I used the same phrasing or the same words across multiple. Of course, there are tags in Evernote, but the tags became kind of a pain in the butt because the tags list was getting long. I had tags for other notes as well. I was creating tags that were like singular and plural just on accident, and so it just wasn't the best process for me to do my daily log. And so moving that over to Notion really just exploded the possibilities, and I wanted to share with you my daily log in Notion and how I'm utilizing Notion for my daily log. So we'll talk about the different aspects of my individual daily log so that you can understand what I'm doing there. And I'll also put this together as a template, so you'll want to check the links in the description below or the link that I shared on the screen here so that you can get access to this template, because it has become quite a bit of connections and data and stuff. And I'll talk about how and why that is all set up the way that it is. So what we're looking at right now is a gallery view. I like to add an image to a daily log because it just kind of makes it fun to have a photo there. And so I'll add a cover photo to a daily log so that I can have like a visual. And then I also, within this gallery entry, have information that shows there so that I can get kind of a big picture view for that day. But we're going to go into the 29th. The 29th, I added a photo of my daughter, which on the iPad is a little cut off, but on the smartphone it looks pretty good. And of course I can move that photo around so that her face shows up right in the middle. But I always add an image to the top because you can. I'll change the emoji, and I've gotten away from this practice, but at first I was using the emoji I would set an emoji for how I was feeling that day. And so, that day I was feeling pretty good. I might choose, that emoji or whatnot. And I kind of got away from utilizing the emoji as a form of tracking my emotional state for the day. I title the entry the date in this format. It's just a practice from how I title files, like photos and stuff like that, and directories on my computer. I just continued to do it that way. I thought about using like some, interesting title or coming up with something, but I'm just not that creative. So I just went with the date. And it also made it a nice, easy way for me to sort the order of things. Because it's not always the same date that I created the page as the date of the entry. As you can see here, it shows the created date was the day before, because I created this log the day before so that I can add a few things to my tasks list for the day ahead of time. Under effectiveness, I read this in a book, and I've been struggling to try and remember where I came up with this, and it did come from a book. Logging my overall effectiveness for the day, I found to be pretty important, because if I wanted to see what was common with a day that I was not very effective, then I can go and look at my daily log and see, oh, well, maybe it's because of this. I just wasn't feeling good that day physically or whatever. And so I can get some trends and start to look at what are the things that commonly make me less effective for the day. So this is a select option, so I can only choose one. So I can't choose multiple, and so I'll just leave it there. And then the one thing, something else I gleaned from a book that I read, which is actually titled The One Thing, was that if there was one thing, and this is the entry that goes there, if there's one thing that I could do or accomplish that day that would make that day great, or make something in the future not have to be done anymore, for example, like a task that I'm not looking forward to or something like that, that would be my one thing for the day. So at the end of the day, if I completed that one thing, I know that that day was a great day, even if the rest of the day fell apart. This particular day was a Sunday. My wife and I were getting to go on a date, and so I put date my wife. We don't get to go on dates that often anymore, so that was my one thing for the day. I also track my emotional state, I guess you can say. This has been something that I've really been trying to pay attention to, because I do struggle with a little bit of depression. It has been clinical, but I don't necessarily think that I have clinical depression. I think that doctors are very quick to diagnose people with that, because it's easy just to give them medication and send them on their way. But I wanted to track my emotional state, and I can choose multiple items here, which are essentially tags. And on this day, I was content, calm, and appreciative, but I have a whole bunch of them in here, and I add some from time to time. And then if I find that I'm not utilizing one of them, I'll get rid of it or change it to something else that's more fitting. I've also been tracking my fitness for the day, like what type of fitness I was involved in, whether it was going to the gym and I was on the treadmill, or I was lifting weights, or I was doing a high-intensive training workout, or I was doing some sort of indoor cycling. I'll track that on here as well, because I'm trying to have some sort of physical activity every single day. Now, my steps and miles are things that I'm tracking for challenges, and I probably could have tracked this in a goal somewhere else within Notion, but I'm tracking them here because it's my daily log, and I don't want too many places to go, so I'm tracking them here. So I pull in my steps from either my Apple Watch or my Fitbit, depending on which one I'm wearing for the day, and I'll put in the steps there. This particular day, I didn't meet my 20,000 step challenge, but I did ride 20.1 miles on my bike, so I made up for it there. So I did a lot of physical activity that day. I track my weight, not every single day, but I do track my weight, because in another view, I can actually see the average of my weight, and it does fluctuate depending on like water retention, how much I worked out and stuff. These are things that I'm trying to improve, so I'm tracking them. Caffeine. I realize that I drink a lot of caffeine. Maybe you can tell by how fast I talk sometimes, but I drink a lot of caffeine, and I wanted to just start tracking it so that I could decide if maybe I need to work on decreasing that. I also wanted to track my water intake, my sleep, and how long I've been fasting. Several of these things are being tracked in other apps, like my sleep is automatically being tracked in my Apple Watch health app on my phone or the Fitbit, but I'm sometimes utilizing different devices, and so the data isn't consistent. And I wanted to be able to see averages and have it all in a spreadsheet essentially, so that I can export it and look at it in different ways if I wanted to. And that's something that I can do with the data that I am now putting in to Notion. And then, of course, fasting. I've been intermittent fasting for over a year now. I have a checkbox next to tasks updated and meds. So when I update my tasks at the end of the day and move them over to the next daily log, I can check that off that I've done that. And then also check the box next to medications, so I make sure that I'm reminding myself to take my thyroid medication. So underneath that, inbox, notes, tasks, and contacts are 4 related databases. And so when I have something in another database that I mention my daily log, or maybe I mention something from my daily log to another database, it's going to show up there. That's something that just automatically appears. You can hide them on your computer and have them be hidden here, but I liked having them there. My inbox is just a place that I dump anything that I get. Some piece of information, a receipt that I need to log later in my budget or something like that. I take a picture or I add it to my inbox and then I deal with it later. That way it's already digitized and I have it in one place that's easy for me to get to. I have a notes section that I haven't gotten super good at utilizing yet. I've been utilizing it a little bit because I'm working on getting my private pilot's license. And so as I have been taking notes going through online ground school, I've been putting it into that section. And then I will tag my daily log for that day so that I can have some sort of a reference as to what else I was doing that day. I don't always do that. The most important one is the contacts, because I have built out what's called a personal CRM in Notion. These days, just with how busy we are, I have 4 kids, I have multiple businesses, I'm busy throughout the day, and I try to take a little bit of time to meet with a friend and have coffee or grab lunch. You know, we might talk for an hour about a variety of different things, and then I have to jump back into life. And we tend to forget a lot of the things about our relationships with different people because we're jumping between all these different things. We're so busy. And so I, with my personal CRM, can log some of those things so that I'm mindful of them and I remind myself, oh yeah, so-and-so told me that. I should probably check in. Or so-and-so said they had that big thing coming up and it's on that date. I should send them a text or send them a call and just say, hey, how'd that thing go? Or give some encouragement or something. And my personal CRM is allowing me to do that pretty easily. I'll talk about that in another video. I know I've had a couple people show some interest in that. So then I have my happenings, which is essentially my daily schedule, things that I've got going on, and they're kind of twirled down in case I need to add some notes to them. So church and the date with my wife are the only calendar items that day. I then had some action items here, and those are just check boxes. And underneath that, my log entries. And I have a variety of different like entry types here: log, note, idea, intention, gratefulness, which sounds counterintuitive because I have a note section somewhere else in Notion. But right now, I just have that there as a reminder. I can tap on new log entry and it automatically adds a new bullet point for me to write next to. And I can type in my entry. I then put the time next to it. And that's essentially where I write about something that's gone on or whatnot. Like on this particular day, my wife and I went out and had a date, and I wanted to talk about something, you know, what is it that she can do in 2020 that is something that she can have, that she puts a little bit of time and effort into, that is outside of the house and our kids and stuff, because that is the world that she lives in. I have the world that I live in, which is part that, but also part my business and getting to make videos and do all that stuff. I wanted to make sure that she has something, and so we talked about that. And then I also add some images down below. These might be screenshots or photos that I took that day, and so I'll add some images. This one was to it was a screenshot to something I saw on Instagram that I really liked, and so I'll just add those in there as well. And as you can see, over time, I've had a lot of daily log entries here, and I have them going back quite a ways. And some of them have changed. You know, you can see here some of them have this little comment section here that is different because I was doing my logs differently, and I realized that's not the way that I probably should do it. So I made some changes throughout, and I will make sure that the best way that I've determined to do all of this is in the template that I share with you. And then I'll update you, of course, if I make any changes. But besides having the all entries gallery, I also have my 30-day averages, which is that data that I was talking about. This is the last 30 days, and I can see my steps for the last 30 days and averages down at the bottom, miles, sleep, caffeine, water, fasted, weight, and all that good stuff, and I can see my averages down at the bottom. This is really fun for me because as I'm trying to, improve my health and lose a little bit of weight, my daily activities and stuff, I want to have a certain average going. And whether I'm tracking that in another app, like because I have a fitness device, of course I can do that. But having everything in one place so that I can see it globally like this is really nice. Not all of these other apps talk or share data amongst each other, so I like having all of this data here and being able to see it like this. It's pretty stinking cool, and to just look at it. And this is the last 30 days here, so every time I add a new entry, the oldest entry falls off out of this view. It doesn't delete it or anything, it just falls off out of this view. And then I also have like a table list view as well, which kind of looks the same, but it's all of the information. So I can see all of my one thing entries in a row like this. I can also see my effectiveness, feeling, fitness, and I can easily see things that are consistent here because there's so many different ways to sort and structure your data in Notion. And so it's just pretty cool to be able to do all of that and see all of my entries in different ways. So I do have a simple template here. I just tap here and choose my new daily log entry. I then give it the date. So since tomorrow is New Year's Day, I will enter tomorrow's date, and then it's an empty template, and you can see here what all is included in that empty template. I would then now move over some of the tasks that I had from the previous day that didn't get completed. I'm still utilizing Todoist for my task management. I haven't completely gone all in on Notion yet, but that essentially is the method that I am using right now for task management, for my daily log, and all of that good stuff. So I do apologize for the light kind of disappearing. It is a little overcast out today, and the sun has slowly disappeared. I'm using natural window light to light me from the side, so I apologize for that. But that is my daily log and why I use it. I will probably talk about it more in the future. If you have questions about it, I encourage you to ask them down in the comment section below. If you want to utilize this daily log template, please do. I have made that available for all of you now so that you can check that out and add it into Notion. I also still have my Evernote daily log template up in case you want to go with something a little bit simpler. Of course, Evernote is pretty much free unless you want to utilize it on a ton of different devices, whereas Notion is only free. You probably get like maybe 5 or 6 daily logs with the amount of data that I have in each daily log before you would then have to choose to pay the small monthly fee for Notion. But I feel it is truly worth it. And I've got that link down for you below where you can check out Notion and get that free trial and utilize it for a little while. So make sure that you do that, especially if you want to use my Notion template here. Of course, it's going to work best in Notion because that's the way it's set up. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I hope that you have an amazing new year. My plans with this channel here are to bring self-optimization and productivity tips, things that I'm implementing into my life, and figuring out whether it was a good idea or not. And I'll bring that back and share it with all of you because the world needs more people sharing what is happening in real time and not coming back 30 years after they've achieved everything. I like seeing what people are doing now, how they're implementing that into their life, and how that's presenting like real-time results as life is unfolding. So if you like that, definitely give me a thumbs up and let me know here. Last thing, subscribe to my newsletter. I will share a lot of things in my newsletter throughout the year, including tips and tools and stuff maybe that I didn't even, something that's good that I didn't want to make a whole video about. Those are the types of things that I put into my email newsletter. I would love to have you along there. The email newsletter has like 18,000 people in it, and so far it's been another encouraging place for me to share things, and so I would love to have you along for that ride as well. I've got a link down to that in the description below. So until next time, I hope to see you back in the next one, but have a great new year and an excellent 2020. Take care, and we'll see you back here soon.